All right, so this video has taken a couple turns, and it's going to be necessary for me to explain a couple things from the start. In the title, or on the title screen, I'd basically put 3 stars or 5 stars for this product. This is a roof rack for our Can-Am Maverick X3 Max, and it is made by AFX Motorsports. You're going to hear all this being said before, but I want to try to make sense of some of this. So first off, I have contacted AFX Motorsports a couple times, and one was for another product that we will be reviewing in the future for fitment questions, and super nice folks, very helpful. I've actually bought 4 of their products currently, and so this is going to be the first of 4 products to be installed where I will be reviewing them. And you'll hear me also say later in the video that this is not an install video, but it's pretty much an install video, even though there's going to be a lot of gaps and stuff where you're gonna have to fill in the blanks. The installation manual, I want to go over this real quick so that you maybe understand where I'm coming from and a little bit of the frustration with installing this product later. So as I will point out, it kind of shows like the overview of what the roof rack looks like and then what the included hardware is here. It explains that you just need a 5/32 Allen key and a 7/16 combination wrench. Not exactly true. I mean, you're going to want a socket wrench, so obviously anybody that has a little bit of tools is going to have that. So I would expect if you're doing an installation of this that's going to be something that you're going to have. So it starts by basically saying that you align the side rails. These are side rails are basically what touches the roof itself. It makes sure to tell you not to tighten anything, so you're going to want to make sure that you don't. It kind of tells you the wrong length of hardware. This right here actually ended up being a 1/2 inch instead of 3/4 inch. Some of what I'm going over right now is also to help out AFX for some of the revisions needed. The reason why you don't really need to have the whole 3/4 is because that is excessive. The thickness doesn't require you to have 3/4, so really 1/2 inch is perfect. It's just basically the same. It's just 2 thicknesses there that you're mending together. And then here I ended up on the 3rd step. It basically is wanting you to start mounting the actual side rails that touch the roof. It's the lower level. That it's going to have you put 1/4 inch by 1 inch screws, and these are the screws that go through the roof, and you'll see that in the video later. I ended up, and as I explained, I ended up changing these up to 3/16 inch bolts, so like another 1/16 inch thicker, because there was plenty of room to put them through the holes, both on the roof rack itself and also the roll cage of the unit. I felt better doing that I actually had some fairly girthy bolts instead of these soft stainless steel bolts that really just don't inspire much confidence that they're going to be able to support the weight of not only the rack but also anything cargo wise that you do put on the roof rack. And I do want to say that you want to be very careful that you do not go excessive with the weight. First off, you're making your unit heavier on top, which will increase the likelihood of you rolling the unit, but also in making it top heavy. But these roof racks, you know, they make them as light as possible and structurally strong as possible, and at the same time they do not intend for you to put that much weight up there and overload your roof, which can be very bad, you know, as far as the handling of a very somewhat top heavy, you know, once you have a lifted vehicle. So it continues on, and the one thing that it always tells you is do not tighten yet. So that's very significant, and you're going to find that to be even more significant as we go on further into this. So it has you now building the top section the actual rack itself, not the rails. These are the rails, and this is the top section. Has you putting the slats in. And then this is very important here. Once again, it says do not tighten. And I understand why it says throughout the manual to not tighten until the very end, because there's tolerances. I mean, you're talking about a you're mending a piece to a roof rack that is it's not exactly true. Let's put it that way. They do their best at the factory to make these roll cages, that is, on the unit itself, kind of true, but then they get installed a little tweaked. Maybe it got tweaked in shipping. There's just a lot of variables that a 1/4 inch or 1/8 inch here and there. So some of these tolerances are going to have to be made up by that. Then it has you basically doing the same thing, but now you're doing the front section of it. And once again, you're putting the slats in that go across, and these are the beams or the slats that run across the upper section. And it doesn't want you to tighten them. Note that on both these sections, it has you putting the bolts from the bottom through the slats and then leaving the nuts loose. It doesn't say anywhere, make sure to tighten these before you set it on top of the rail, the side rails. So these are the side rails, and then here's the top. Being that you don't tighten any of these bolts before laying them on top, there is no way to get to those bolts again. And you're going to see this in the video later, and you're going to see why I'm frustrated, because I literally had to take this rack apart 3 times. The third time is going to be in part 2. I should have said that from the beginning, but there is a part 2. I will make sure to make a note of that from the beginning, that this is part 1 of part 2, so that you will know to look for the second part. In part 2 will also be what the result of speaking with the folks at AFX Motorsports is, because I'm actually going to hopefully talk to them next week. It's currently January 31st, so we're in a holiday. And rightfully so, those folks have not decided to come into work today and start celebrating the new year early, which is great. So we will know more, and those comments will be put in part 2 as I end up talking to the folks that actually might care about this. The lady that I spoke with today, extremely nice. Kind of backs up the idea of why I like to help companies in some of these cases where things just don't go together quite like they should be. So once again, it's showing it sitting up on top of the unit and all these bolts that are loose that you cannot access the heads to, which ends up not working out, and you'll see that later. And then putting in the side rails, and then everything is up on top of the unit. And at this point in time, it says to basically repeat the steps, and then the last step here, tighten all the screws to finish the installation, which is not possible because they're button head bolts. Like, you can't even get a combination wrench in there if you wanted to. And the other issue that you're going to see in the video is that it's very unsightly because it's tight here in the middle. Maybe this is a better picture over here. Yeah, let's go over here. So it's flush here in the middle. Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of Triad Expeditions. And in this expedition, we are going to begin the modifications to our 2021 Maverick X3. This is the Turbo RR version with the smart shocks. What we're going to be installing today is a roof rack. So this is the AFX Motorsports roof rack here. And this is some short instructions. Don't look like it's going to be too hard at all. So we're going to get this going. I'm not going to be showing you step by step, so if you're looking for an install video, this is definitely not it. But this is going to be the video that's going to show you how it comes. So the box is a fairly small box, a little bit of weight to it, and the pieces all break down out of the packages once you unwrap them. Everything looks very nice finish. Definitely what I expected, probably even better quality. So we'll see how it goes together. I'm sure Ozzy will be helping us out along the way. So for everyone, Ozzy boy. Up there he is. So there's a little Aussie boy. So he's going to be kind of supervising from his cage. And yeah, let's get to it. So here are the rails up on the roof. The quick release snaps here in the front, they need to come out so that this will sit flush. And then here in the middle, I actually reuse the OEM bolts. They're probably not as good at quality, but the washers are bigger, and it just kind of made sense to use those. The rear here, I'm gonna have to drill holes. I don't know if there's like maybe a year difference or something, but I don't think so. I think I'm just gonna have to drill holes. Because of that fact that I'm gonna have to drill holes, I'm actually gonna kind of divert from the instructions a little bit, because it has you put the rails up there and actually put the 3 bolts in. It's not really a precise hole that you're gonna put through the plastic, and they're slotted. So I'd rather get this thing completely built up on there and then square it up and then drill the holes, instead of doing it the reverse way. So hopefully that doesn't bite me in the butt, but yeah, we'll see. So here is the top section all kind of put together. The one thing that you'll want to take note, obviously, is it tells you to keep all the bolts loose. And it's a pretty simple design. You're putting the bolts from the bottom. Hopefully this thing is pretty rigid, because there's not really much that interlocks and everything is pretty loose. So we'll see. 2 different halves. What you're looking at closest to the camera here is the front half, and then the back half there. So, all right, moving on. The rack is up on top of the roof, and I've put every bolt in. The only issue I have is that there was some shortages for the bolts right here. I ended up having to use some 3/4 instead of the 1/2 inch that they specify. So there is a little bit of hardware incompatibility. Overall, you can get the look of it. And I did tighten up. Of course, it was the last bolt that I had to ratchet to basically get in there, because you know everything is trying to fit together. But nothing has been tightened up yet, and I have not put the holes on the front or the rear. So I will give you a final opinion about the installation once I get those in. All right, so this is the part where I usually get frustrated with somebody's design. And yeah, here's another example. So anyways, this is pretty important. I guess this is why I do these videos, even though I say I don't do installation videos. But I will tell you about this. So if you bought this rack, do be very aware of the instructions. So it definitely tells you do not tighten anything. And I understand why they do, because they want you to kind of get everything as tweaked and close as possible before you go tightening everything down. But here's the thing. If you do not tighten this part, these screws right here, when you build the upper rack, let's call this the upper rack and let's call these the side rails. If you do not tighten these before you put them on here, you're not going to be able to get to these again. So they're going to have you put the 4 screws in each corner and tighten it down, and then they're going to basically tell you tighten all the screws. Well, unfortunately, you cannot get to these screws. And then I'll go ahead and tell you, which I was going to tell you before, not a good design overall. So these side rails, what they needed to do is they needed to cut holes in these side rails, the lip here at the top, so that you could access these button head screws with your Allen head, so you could get your nut up on top and your socket up on top, but still be able to access these button head screws. Not only that, but as these button head screws lay on top of this rail, there's a gap all the way through. So the thickness of these button head screws makes a gap from the upper rack and these side rails, because they're basically just pressing down on the side rail, which it's not good. I had built, this is the second day on this installation. I had actually finished building it last night, sort of, you know, kind of like wrapping up for the day. And then I looked at it, I'm like, wow, that's not very good. And so I actually started looking around though for other racks, and I don't like the other racks as well. I still think this is the best choice as far as aesthetics, but they definitely could have done better when it comes to the design. I think I will give them a call and talk to whoever it is that does their CAD work, and just give them some feedback that, you know, it'd just be too easy for them to put into the design for the cutter to cut holes for these button head screws, and then also you could access them to tighten them down. So right now I'm basically have taken it apart from the four corners that hold the upper rack, and this I've taken it loose and kind of canted it so that I can get my Allen head to the button head screws and then tighten everything down and then put it back together. So I'm going to do that now, and then I'll show you also kind of preliminary what it's looking like with what I'm going to do with some storm cases. All right, I'm going to talk about this a little bit more because I think it's worth talking about. I finally did get this all together. It was a task, to say the least, because nothing lined up. Once you tighten this top deck down, the top part of the roof, it will be tweaked, because here in the middle it's lower, and then as these button head bolts that use to bolt the lateral slats across get tightened down, yeah, and once everything is actually required to line up, it just doesn't work that good. So it was a lot of tweaking and loosening and loosening and tightening just to try to get everything to work. So, all right. So I'm going to go ahead and give this product a 3-star review. I like it now that it's done, but I think for most people, this will be extremely frustrating. It was extremely frustrating for me, and I feel like I have a little bit of mechanical skills. It's not going to go on very easily. Some people would probably disagree. And once again, just to reiterate, the solution to this is they need to cut these side rails with circles so that the bolts will drop through instead of them just sitting on top. Because there is a gap in between there. You can see the bolt heads. I mean, most people will not look for that. I know it's there. You'll know it's there when you put it together. You'll ask yourself, why didn't they do that? I'm confident they have been told this before, that this is not something new. So that, which is disappointing, because if, you know, literally all they got to do is get in there and revamp the CAD to allow the machine to cut the circles out. They don't have to reinvent the wheel. And there is some other fitment issues. One thing I did was I put 3/16 bolts that I had here with lock nuts in the corners. So in each of these corners, because there's plenty of room, they're giving you 1/4-inch stainless steel bolts for basically the most structural part of this, going through the roll cage. And I didn't feel good about that at all. I don't plan on overloading this, but why wouldn't you? You know, so I think the hardware choices that they have chose for this is very poor. I would say that they need to be listening to their customers. They need to employ certain people that they can put this kit in their hands and basically say, hey, put this together and give us feedback. Hopefully this, you know, I'm going to send them this video. Hopefully they might take some of the suggestions and say, you know, yeah, we need to do a couple things different. I do like it though. You know, even though I give it a bad review, I like the fact that it contours, here, the side rails, contour. So, that stuff is very thoughtful, but it needs some revisions. I don't know how long this roof rack has been out. So, maybe it's a pretty brand new product for them. And, things get better over time. I kind of give them a break on that a little bit, but the first time that they put it on a vehicle, whatever, they should have been the ones to catch this, not me. So I'm quite sure they're aware of it. They just have not got around to revising it. And that's a little disappointing, in that regard. So I would suggest putting, like I said, 3/16 bolts here with lock nuts in each corner, something of decent grade. I use the OEM bolts here in the middle, which are a little bit heavier than the 1/4-inch stainless steel. Stainless steel is a pretty soft steel. Yes, it's great because it doesn't rust, but for them to use the stainless steel hardware for mounting this to the actual unit, to the car is kind of disappointing. So enough about that. I know I've probably bored you with that little bit of a rant. 3 stars. If there's anything that changes, definitely I'll update this video and include it. So as you can see, I have some Pelican storm cases up top, and that is what I'll give you guys a little walk around. That is my plans, is to mount those. Eventually I will have a Rigid Industries, probably homemade light bar that goes across the front, because it kind of looks silly right now without a balance or anything across the roof rack. There's just that space underneath there. But it looks pretty good. I mean, I know it's kind of hard on video for you to see what it looks like. But with the storm cases up there, that's going to give me a lot of storage to put spares and tools, whatnot up there. So anything like emergency related on the trail will be up there. So that's going to be good to have that extra storage space, because we know that these do not have a whole bunch of storage space. In the back, I'm going to have the cooler is the plan. And then I actually have ordered the AFX tire mount in the back. So that's going to go in the back. You guys will see that in some future videos. I actually called them. They were really cool on the phone about giving me the update that they believe that the tire rack will fit up there with the cooler in the back, and will actually allow me to mount a 35-inch spare. So I hope that's the case. And then the other product that I've bought from them is the side 3/16, slightly thicker than 1/4-inch guards on the side. So I've decided to do that instead of Nerf guards, because I'm not really keen on the idea of making it any wider than it is, and it's really just barely fits on my trailer, which is crazy because it's a car hauler trailer. So the fact that it just barely fits on the trailer is kind of crazy, but that is the case. But yeah, so all right, well, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Hope for those of you that were on the fence about buying this, at least you'll know going into it a little bit more, and you won't have to totally rework it. Maybe you can save yourself some trouble in the install process. Definitely, if you have any questions, you need to get in contact with AFX and not take my word for it. Maybe they will give you some pointers as well. For more adventure videos that we will be producing here in 2021, we will be going on several trips and taking this unit out to Utah. So you'll be able to see all that. So make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell so that you will be notified of any of our new videos that do come out. For all of our current subscribers, which I'm not, it's not a whole bunch, but we're approaching 1,500. Really appreciate you subscribing and viewing the videos. And everybody take care and be safe.